Great job making it all here safe with this beautiful new snow we're having. And we're gonna get started on chapter 2. If anyone was here last week, you may remember that we told chapter 1 of our Jay the Piglet story and song. So what we're gonna do this morning is we're going to review or learn the chorus together. I will tell chapter 2 with a very brief recap of the first part, and then we will sing the chorus at the end of the second chapter. So I'm going to pull up my lyrics as well, because we are all works in progress. There we go. Alrighty, can everyone see the lyrics up here? No? Would the front of the altar be more visible? Would it? Yeah? Alright, let's give that a shot. No? Would anyone like to thank you? Anyone here? Do you want to come up front and center? Alrighty. So I will sing the chorus to you briefly, and then we will sing it together. Here's how it goes. Jay, actually, let me get the right key. Alrighty, so if you can see the lyrics, here's how it goes. There's an intro tag. Jay the Piglet sang, sometimes it feels like I'm walking alone, going down pathways that I've never known, but keep my eyes open and take it real slow. There's friends everywhere and the earth is my home. Wanna try it with me? So we're going to start with Jay the Piglet. It's a little high, so take whatever key fits your voice best. So it starts, Jay the Piglet sang, sometimes it feels like I'm walking alone, going down pathways that I've never known, but keep my eyes open and take it real slow. There's friends everywhere and the earth is my home. Great job. Let's do it one more time with the chords, and then chapter 2 arrives. All right. Jay the Piglet sang, sometimes I feel like I'm walking alone, going down pathways that I've never known. Keep my eyes open and take it real slow. There's friends everywhere and the earth is my home. Great job, y'all. Alrighty. Chapter 2. Chapter 1 began with Jay the Piglet roaming the meadows, having a wonderful time, smelling flowers, and all of a sudden getting bumped behind by Kay the Kangaroo, who was in a wild rush, hands full of things, saying, I have no time. Jay was pushed forward into the dirt, bumped their snout, smushed some flowers, and their feelings were hurt by being so not considered. So, Jay the Piglet went out onto the road to seek justice for all of their wounds and the wounds that they had accidentally carried forward onto the flowers. Verse 2, pluralism, P. Jay the Piglet sauntered down the path with seemingly no obstacles for quite some time. Kay had been moving much faster than Jay walked, but Jay's little feet could not match Kay's speed. And Jay knew, or perhaps hoped, that Kay would have to take a break at some point. No living being could go at that speed forever without rest, right? Jay had a little feeling deep in their gut that if they kept going, they would catch up. Without warning, Jay arrived at a fork in the road, where before there had only been one clearly marked and well-maintained way forward. The road now forked in 3 different directions. No path seemed like the right one at first glance. Jay began to panic. Oh no, thought Jay to themselves. Which way do I go? I didn't get to see which fork Kay took in the road. If I choose the wrong path, maybe we won't meet. Then this whole journey that's been so hard on my little feet would have been for nothing, and I could still get bumped from behind without warning any day. That's no way to live. How do I know which way to go? Which way is the right way? While Jay's little head was swirling with these troubling thoughts, in a nearby bog, a little frog listened in. "What's troubling you?" croaked the tiny green frog. "Who's there?" yelled out Jay, who in their worried state had not seen the frog in the bog. "I am Henry Penelope Sunflower," the little frog declared, "and I see that you look confused and scared. Are you hoping to follow that jumping lad Kay? I remember they hopped by just earlier today." "I am," cried Jay, feeling hopeful at last. "Which way did Kay go?" Jay implored, but alas, I did not see which path Kay chose. But fret not, my little piglet friend. I know a great secret. All three paths join up and meet in the end. There is no one right way for you to go. All the paths, though they differ, are good ways to go. Jay heaved a sigh of small piglet relief. "So wherever I go, eventually we'll meet?" "That's right," said Henry Penelope Sunflower, who croaked in content. "Just check in with your heart and your head and your gut. Walk on with kindness and you can't go wrong. While the paths diverge, they're all touched by the sun. If you walk long enough, all paths become one." Jay snorted with joy hearing this news. "I am so glad that I met you. I was feeling so lost and afraid. I didn't think anyone could see my pain. You didn't have to help me, but you did. Your words and your wisdom are such a gift. I wish I had something to give in return, but all I have with me is what I have learned. You owe me nothing. To give is a gift. The smile on your face makes me so glad I did. But if you would like to share love or gratitude, I would so enjoy hearing a story or two." So, Jay the piglet sang, "Sometimes I feel like I'm walking alone, going down pathways that I've never known. Keep my eyes open and take it real slow. There's friends everywhere and the earth is my home." That's all. Thank you. Good work, everybody.
Welcome to the worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of South County. I am Reverend Denis Paul, and I have the honor of serving this congregation as minister. It's the last of our Chalice Days, these days of luminescence when we light a chalice each day at home. Hanukkah, the 8-day Jewish festival of light, begins at sundown. The natural light is low, and everywhere we look, indoors and out, twinkle lights abound. Thank you for braving the snow to be here. Lee Cowan, our director of faith exploration, is sick today, so we're gonna kind of soldier on without her. Nick, who was supposed to be one of our musicians, is also sick. Suzelle, who is usually, oh, Suzelle, you made it. I thought you weren't here. Suzelle made it. So thank you all for being here. So aside from being the minister, I also have the legal duty to point out that in the unlikely event of an emergency, you should exit quickly. You can go out the way you came in or go down the ramp through the Oneida room, but please reserve that ramp for people who need it unless you're helping them. You can go out behind me or down the hall and to the left. Recognizing that we all have different needs for safety, we're a mask-friendly congregation, so if you see someone wearing a mask, please give them a little extra space and just be mindful of touching. We should probably always be mindful of touching, especially during this season of illness. If you aren't feeling well, or if it's a day like today and you just don't feel like going out, please stay home and join us by Zoom. It's a sacred time of the week, so let's all turn off our cell phones or silence them now so we can just be present as we celebrate joys and sit in sadness in the fullness of our being. Whatever your economic situation, whatever your citizenship or immigration status, whatever pronouns you prefer, regardless of whom you love, you are welcome here in this congregation of like-hearted individuals dedicated to welcoming, loving, growing spiritually, and seeking justice. I'd like to invite this morning's greeters to rise as you're able so everybody can see you. So we've got Sky and Will and Elise and Russell. If you are a newcomer, please talk to one of these good folks. We ask you to also fill out a yellow card in the hymnal and put that in the collection basket as that passes. And if you're so inclined, feel free to introduce yourself during the part of the service that we call Joys and Concerns. And newcomers on Zoom, I would like to invite you to introduce yourself to other participants, especially our virtual ushers at home today, Jean and Aileen. We light this chalice today on the last day of Chalice Days to celebrate our faith, our UU values with love at the center. May this chalice remind us that sometimes just lighting a candle in the dark is enough. Just sitting together in presence is enough. Dash, would you do us the honor of lighting our chalice as I share the words of Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, part of the song This Is Me that we danced to last week. We won't let them break us down to dust. I know there's a place for us, for we are glorious. Thanks, Dash. So this morning, Lee and I wanted to share an Aesop fable. It's called The Ants and the Grasshopper, and we've adapted it slightly. It was a bright day in late autumn. The sun was warm, but the chill wind blowing leaves around was a warning that winter was just days away. A family of ants were bustling about in the bright, crisp sunshine of early winter, drying out the grain they had stored up during the summer, when a group of starving grasshoppers, with fiddles under their arms, came up and humbly begged for a bite to eat. "What?" cried the ants in surprise. "Haven't you stored anything away for the winter? What in the world were you doing all summer?" "We didn't have time to store up any food," whined the grasshoppers. "We were so busy making music that before we knew it, the summer was gone." The ants shrugged their shoulders and threw up their hands in disgust. "Making music, were you? Well, you should have been working hard like us, gathering food for the winter. It's not our fault you're hungry now," they cried. And so ends Aesop's fable, with the ants turning away in disgust. But can you imagine a different ending? As the ants turned away, preparing to return to work, they stopped suddenly when the grasshoppers began to make music. They were mesmerized by its beauty. Slowly, one ant at a time, they began to move, swaying gently to the music. And as the tempo picked up, they began to move just a bit more. Little by little, the energy of their dance increased until they were all moving to the rhythm of the grasshopper's beautiful melody. Soon, they were all dancing and feeling joy in their hearts. The ants were happy to offer their food to the grasshoppers, who had brought such a wonderful gift of music into their lives. The ants' encounter with the grasshoppers had turned into a party, a blessed gathering in which they all shared what they had. When their bodies were tired and their bellies were full, the ants and the grasshoppers realized that all their work is valuable, and that sometimes work and play can be the same thing. The food and the music they shared was a blessing to them all because the ants learned to relax and the grasshoppers learned how much they belong and how much they have to offer the world. Thank you. Thank you. You were all super energetic. I love that. You know, all around the world, throughout countless cultures and traditions, Hans, our original fable, just left the grasshopper to die in the winter without food. Andersen's match girl slipped into death in the snow, completely ignored by passersby. It's hard to imagine there was a time when we told these tales to children, even though I think it's safe to say that most of us in this room, especially those of us who are older, all heard these stories when we were children, little children. And the messages of all these stories are pretty simple. Life is hard. You may be neglected, you may be abused, and you are the only person responsible for your actions. So do the right thing and take care of yourself, or else. Because ultimately, you're on your own. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have dreamed of telling a tale like any of these to little children. They felt like vestiges of a bygone era when life was dangerous, resources were extremely limited, and children grew up fast. But now, there's something about these times that we're living in that make these stories seem a little less unlikely than they seemed just a few years ago. I mean, ICE is telling people to self-deport as if it's a choice. Like, deport yourself now, and if you can't, we'll be happy to do it for you later. Like it's a positive thing. And the tactic is working because this administration has a history of separating children from their parents, then losing the children in the storm of court appearances and relocations. So these days, life may be harsher than it was a few years ago, a little closer to a grim fairy tale or a bleak fable. But Lee and I felt like we could do better. That's why we rewrote the end of the Aesop fable, why we tell the stories that demonstrate how harsh life can be, and that there are ways people around us, they can count on us and we can count on them, like the tale, the epic tale of Jay the Piglet. People are there for us if we know where to look. We want to show in these stories that in this troubled world, this is one of the places that we care about each other and the world. This is a place where we hope for the best and do what we can to make it true. In our reflection circle a couple weeks ago, I invited everyone in the group to brag about people they know who are exemplars of hope. And we shared stories of family, friends, neighbors, strangers, and a lot of people from this congregation. And they were mostly stories of folks who didn't seem to be exemplars of hope. They just did what they needed to do to survive and maybe even thrive. So as I listened to all these stories, I realized that the people we talked about weren't just exemplars, they were mentors of hope, whether they realized it or not. They were teaching us how to treat each other so that we can all feel like life is actually worth living, that we're not alone, and that what we do makes a difference. Because it's not easy sometimes to have hope. It doesn't always come naturally. We need others to teach us how to approach the difficult stuff, like choosing to be hopeful when it would be easier or more satisfying in the long run to just give up. We need them to hold the hope for us, especially when we can't hold it ourselves. The irony is that through the roar of the 24-hour news cycle, through the rush of our days and the crush of late-stage capitalism, we can be hard on ourselves and on each other, even as we work together to build a loving community. even as we all sacrifice so much. That's why it's important to take time out from the work to reflect on our values and our goals, appreciate and bless one another as we hear the hush in our own souls and one another's souls. In her memoir, Eat, Pray, Love, One Woman's Search for Everything Across Italy, India, and Indonesia, Elizabeth Gilbert wrote something that has stuck with me for almost 2 decades. I've come to believe that there exists in the universe something I call the physics of the quest, a force of nature governed by laws as real as the laws of gravity or momentum. And the rule of quest physics maybe goes like this. If you are brave enough to leave behind everything familiar and comforting, which can be anything from your house to your bitter old resentments, and set out on a truth-seeking journey, either internally or externally, and if you are truly willing to regard everything that happens to you on that journey as a clue, and if you accept everyone you meet along the way as a teacher, and if you are prepared, most of all, to face and forgive some very difficult realities about yourself, then the truth will not be withheld from you. As she say, so she's come to believe. I like to think that each of us is on a journey of quest physics to varying degrees. Maybe not all day, every day. Maybe not even every Sunday when we gather. But each of us is on a truth-seeking journey, hoping to leave behind the old ways that may be comforting but no longer serve us or the people we love. Each of us wants most of the time to regard everything as a clue to help us figure it all out, to see every person and every event as a kind of teacher in the process. Each of us knows it will be hard and that we will need companions and friends and teachers along the way. The kinds of friends who can help us lovingly see in ourselves the things we probably would prefer to ignore. And each of us wants that kind of epic journey. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, right? It's so much easier to just stay home, especially when there's an inch of snow on the ground or the news is scary and depressing. Or it's easier all of the time to simply join a gym or go to the senior center where so much less is asked of us, where we aren't asked to share our harvest bounty with those who didn't prepare for the winter, or to forgive those who have harmed us in big and small ways. But we're here because sometimes we've been the grasshopper and sometimes we've been one of the ants. We're here because sometimes we've been the little match girl. And sometimes we've even been the one who sent her out into the cold, hoping for the best. And we need to be reminded and forgiven. We need to be reminded that there is hope for each of us, that we have within us what we need to survive and maybe even thrive, and that we can be forgiven and loved when we mess it all up, as we will. And so as we all head toward that time when we gather, that time of year when the gatherings are ending, when there's so much work to do so we can bless each other's lives and rest together in celebration, may we remember to take each act seriously. The working, the blessing, the resting, all of it. Take it seriously as if our lives depend on it, because they do. May it be so. Please rise now as you're willing and able, and open your hymnal to number 121, We'll Build a Land.